Welcome to Fight Night Houston predictions. First, we're going to go over the results from last weekend. I think I did pretty well. Start off with the main event. Pena lost. I don't think anybody was going to pick Shevchenko, especially not on the ground. But very smooth. She looks well-rounded. She did a little dance. She's speaking Spanish. She could be the next big star. Maybe not in America, but in the Latin world, Shevchenko could be big. Masvidal, I called this. I called it, and I think after the first round, Herb Dean should have stopped it. But it went into the second, and Masvidal went to the body, like I said. TKO, second round, spot on. Ngannou, TKO as well, called that. I think everybody did, though, so there's no pride in that one. The Caceres, Jason Knight. I fell down on the side of Caceres, but I did say that this could go either way. Jason Knight looks smooth. That was a great body triangle. He looks like he could be a force to be reckoned with. Alvi versus Nate Marquardt. That stunk the arena out, but I picked Alvi. I did actually say the Assunção and Sterling was going to be a split decision. I went with Sterling, but, Assunção got that. Again, terrible stinker of a fight. I mean, both of those guys just standing off each other, and it's one thing to be a counter fighter, but Anderson Silva was a counter fighter, Lyoto Machida was a counter fighter, and to a certain extent, what you've got to do is you've got to finish clinically when the opportunity opens, and neither of these guys was doing that. I think it's one of those fights where both guys' stock actually falls. Jing Liang, round 2 KO. I said sub, but he got it by KO. Johnson, very impressive. I said Johnson by sub. I don't know what you can do with De Silva. I think this guy needs cutting. De Chirico against Spicely. I went with De Chirico, but Spicely really impressed me. From outside of the main card, I thought his performance was the best one. Very, very smooth triangle submission. Next, De Lima by TKO. I picked that spot on, but Jesus Christ, in a night of bad fights, that was the worst one. Panteo won on points by split decision. I said he was going to win by submission, rear naked choke, and in the first 2 rounds, he was really working for it, but he didn't get there. And then opening fight of the night was Cottrell and Gonzalez, and Cottrell was doing very well on the floor, and I picked him to win by submission. Gonzalez got back to his feet, and then for some reason, from far too far out, Cottrell went for a very weak takedown, and Gonzalez locked up a very smooth Darce choke. But at this level, if someone's going to offer it to you, you have to take it. So I think I did pretty well. Hopefully we'll keep that roll going. So this week on Sunday, February 5th, Fight Night Houston. The opening bout, it's not one I'm very excited about. Khalil, the Warhorse Roundtree, he appeared on Tough 23. Maybe he's most famous for telling his mum to shut up during the middle of one of his bouts. He faces off against Daniel Jolly. Jolly by name, not by nature. He's got one of the meanest mugs in the game. I think both of these guys have a lot of work to do if we're going to call them real UFC fighters. The good news is that one of them will pick up their first win this weekend in the UFC. I think it's going to be Khalil Roundtree, TKO, second round. I am very excited, however, for the second fight of the night. These are 2 amazing young prospects. Alex Moreno against Nico Price. I think they're going to be mainstays in the UFC for many years to come. It's a very tough call, but I'm going to go with the unbeaten Price. I was very impressed with him against Brandon Thatch. So I think it's going to be a decision. Nico Price by decision. Tisha Torres versus Bec Rawlings. This is another one going back to Ultimate Fighter, and actually they faced off on season 20. I'm not very excited about this. I don't think the UFC brass are excited about this. I think that's why it's so far down the card. I think this is going to be a snooze fest and a decision to Tisha Torres. Now, switching it up, The guy who came off this season of looking for a fight, Ricardo Lucas Ramos, he's fighting Japanese mainstay Mishinori Takanaka. I think this is going to be a great fight. I think Ramos is going to win this. Interestingly, Ramos has only been the distance once, and Takanaka has been to decision for his last 6 fights. I think the Brazilian that they call Karakakina, I'll get that wrong for sure, will win by 2nd round submission. I think of all the people who came off the first season of looking for a fight, and obviously this first episode, I think he's got the best potential. I think he's going to be a big star and a title contender in the future. Chas Skelly is going up against, let's say, Chris G. Not even going to try your surname, sir. 2 tiny guys, though. I think either guy could win this on the feet. So, obviously, I'm going to go with a submission. Chas Skelly, round 3. The next one, again, 2 guys who could win it on the feet. Heavyweight battle between Milstead and Blades. Both very heavy hitting. Blades is a bigger guy, maybe much bigger is an exaggeration, but he's the heavier guy. He's only lost in Ngannou. Milstead only lost the first bout of his career. So I think someone's getting KO'd. I'm going to pick Blades to win round 1. I think the longer this goes, the better Milstead's chances are. But, you know, I'm going with Razor Blade round 1. And that is a hell of a cool name. Jessica Andrade versus Angela Hill. I'm really upset, actually, that Angela Hill's being brought back in for this, because it feels a little bit like they're feeding her to Andrade. There's not a lot of hype behind Angela Hill, even though she's coming in on a 4-fight winning streak in Invicta. I think what they're going to do is they're going to have Andrade win, and then she'll face off against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think the Jędrzejczyk-Andrade fight is more exciting than this one. But, you know, this is the UFC matchmaking at the moment. Andrade by decision. Again, talking about feeding people to opponents. Anthony Hamilton, who is a monster heavyweight, goes up against a guy who has competed so far at light heavyweight in Marcel Fortuna. Now, Fortuna does have a very respectable background in submission fighting. So if he goes to the floor, he could have a chance, but I think Freight Train wins this TKO round 1. Now, a little bit more of a typical route is when you fight at heavyweight, some guys come in and drop down to light heavyweight. That's what Volkan Ozdemir is doing against OSP. Ovince St. Preux has been a guy who's been touted for a long time as potential, and now at his age, on a 2-fight losing streak, he needs to start realizing that potential if he's going to ever hold the gold. Sadly, I don't think this is going to be his night. I think TKO round 3 to Ozdemir. Next up, I'm very, very excited about this one. Abel Killer Trujillo is one of my favorite fighters. He's going up against James Vick. Now, James Vick has won all of his bouts except the last one where he got KO'd by Beneil Dariush. And he has a substantial reach advantage in this fight. However, Trujillo has won all of his last 12 except to Khabib and Tony Ferguson. So, you know, let's take Conor out of the picture because who knows what he's doing. And then realistically, you could say that Abel Trujillo is top 5 guy and only lost to the best 2. I think he's going to close the distance and turn out James Vick's lights. Round 1. Okay, the co-main event is a little more than a showcase for Alexa Grasso, I feel. Felice Herrig is a pioneer in women's MMA. She's a tough fight, so I think this will go to the judges, but Alexa Grasso by decision. The main event should be a fun fight between 2 game individuals. I think the deciding factor in this fight is going to be Korean Zombie's long layoff due to his military service. I might even pick Bermudez before the military layoff. I think Bermudez, it's an interesting matchup for him. Now, Chan Sung Jung is very good at submissions, and Bermudez has been susceptible in the past to chokes. So He has ways to win this, but I'm going with Dennis the Menace by decision. So that's 5 decisions, 5 TKOs, and 2 submissions. Sounds like a hell of a night of fights. So let's look forward to Sunday, and we'll be back with the predictions for 208 not long.